Hello, and welcome to Of the People, Politics and Numerology. In this case, the two numbers to watch are the numbers 2 and the numbers 18. 2 as in Trump 2.0. Last week was a great week for the country. I would argue it's probably even a better week for Israel now that they will have a real friend back in the Oval Office, one who understands that what makes Israel important is not just because it's the Jewish homeland and not just because it's a strategic U.S. ally or the main strategic U.S. ally in the Middle East, but for everything else that makes Israel so seminally important. So the other thing that flows from that is the two-state solution, which has been the bedrock of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East for over 50 years, is now thankfully dead. You will see a reinvigorated Abraham Accords. Maybe we get to bring Morocco into this, and some of the other, other countries, Tunisia, maybe one day Saudi Arabia, but look for that in the second term. As far as Harris and the Dems are concerned, they're still trying to figure out why they lost, not only why they lost, but the size of it. They're blaming messaging, that their policies are right, but they just couldn't communicate the messaging. They're blaming black men, white women, and white women in particular, you're supposed to lie to your husbands. Look, Donald Trump won because he gave voice to over half of America that had felt disenfranchised, and they had no voice, both from the elites in Washington and certainly what's now called the Democratic Party, which certainly is not your father's Democratic Party, which is now anti-Semitic in large part. Not all of the Democratic Party, but certainly the people driving the agenda here. Trump won because, like Reagan in 1980, he found a way to go around the media directly to the American people. Right. And they call it the legacy media for a reason. Legacy is usually something you leave behind when you're dead, your legacy. And if the mainstream media is not dead now, they should have been, because they were anything but honest brokers in this, telling us that Biden was fine, telling us that the economy was fine, even though every time we went to the grocery store or we fueled up with gasoline, it cost us more money. Trump won also because he was far more disciplined and messaging and campaigning than he was the first time around. Look for Trump to do more of that in his term, both discipline in messaging and discipline in policy. But most important is going to be the personnel that he appoints. I've been around politics long enough, 30 some odd years in and out of DC and in New Jersey politics, to tell you that personnel is policy, and who you pick is going to determine what your policy really is, because you can't be everywhere and everything. The other number to look at is the number 18. It is 2 years to the midterms. 18 months is what Trump is going to have to get things done in this election. The last time the Republicans controlled both chambers of Congress, as well as the executive branch, was in 2004. I was involved in helping on that. We lost in 2006 the House, and most parties that are in control in midterms lose seats. So you have to look at this as 18 months, and the Democrats know that. They also know that Trump is a lame duck president, meaning he cannot run for another term. He's term limited out. So first they're going to shoot for the 18 months, and you're already seeing the resistance starting. Democratic governors, other people stepping forward. The lawfare, or as the weaponization of the judicial system, is going to continue. It's just not going to be, against Trump. So ladies and gentlemen, the battle is not over. The battle is just beginning. We're fighting from higher ground, and that's fine, but there's still a lot of work to do. The hard work is now here. And let's not forget, MAGA, Make America Great Again, is really just recentering American politics back to their traditional core constitutional values. So really, MAGA is about American exceptionalism. And that's the monologue. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to have with us in the main show Hillel Fuld, who is one of the leading tech influencers in the world, based out of Israel. Forbes dubbed him, let's say that, Hillel, they call you the man transforming startup nation to scale up nation. That's a hell of a moniker to live up to. Hillel, welcome to Of the People. Thank you for coming in all the way from Israel.
Thank you for the kind words. It's a privilege and an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for being a part of Israel Appreciation Day. That's the event that we had hosted Now we tell people out of Las Vegas. It has been what I really want to talk to you about is something you said during your speech at Israel Appreciation Day. And I want to start with that the more that they persecute Israel and the Jews, the more innovation, right? You didn't really, I mean, I sort of get it, but I would love to hear from your perspective because this is really the world you live in. Connect those two for me.
Yeah, sure. So we're all familiar with the phrase Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people live, but I don't know how many actually think about that phrase, right? It's not just an empty phrase. It's a historical reality, right? And if you don't believe me, then open your phone and check how many Babylonian friends you have, because I don't have any. Where are they? Where'd they go, right? Where's ancient Egypt? Where's the Roman Empire? Where's the Greek Empire? Where's the Nazi Empire? Where's the Soviet Empire? They're all gone. We're here, right? And, you look back really to the earliest days, even before we were the Jewish people, we were the Israelites in Egypt. And we were enslaved for 210 years. And the Torah, the Bible, and I don't mean the commentary on the Bible, I mean the Bible, literally says the more the Egyptians persecuted the Israelites, the stronger the Israelites, the more they reproduced and the stronger they got, which is the most counterintuitive thing in the world. You would think, they'd be persecuting us, we would not flourish, right? But that's our story. That's always been our story. And, we see that throughout history. And now we see it that the more they terrorize us, the more we innovate. You're looking at a country, I'll remind you and your viewers, smaller than New Jersey, in what one might say the most dangerous neighborhood on earth, right? And yet you look at tech, you look at innovation, and Israel dominates across all sectors. There's no such thing as a sector of technology in which Israel is not a dominant player, which is, again, given the size and the volatility of the region, it's counterintuitive, but that is our story.
No, and I think that makes sense. Now, I guess the question that I really have is, we have in Judaism, obviously, the concept of to heal the world, right? One of the things my friends always ask me in the States is, how is it that such large swatches, the vast majority of of American Jews, vote Democratic when it's clearly, at least as it's currently construed, against their interest? You also brought up in that speech to Israel Appreciation Day, you brought up that the whole concept of heal the world, right? Tikkun olam, right? To heal the world. But you see it very differently in terms of through the lens of innovation, right? So what are all because that's what we really want to do. The only thing that people in this country really know, whether they're Jew or Gentile, is that Israel is Jewish homeland and Israel is a U.S. ally. But there's all this technology that Israel is responsible for that no one knows about.
Right. So first of all, just in terms of your original statement, I don't actually know the accurate numbers about how many Jews voted for Kamala. I know that there are polls, but the polls are skewed because they left out many states. They were, the polls were taken in specific states. So I don't really know the exact numbers. I would find it very hard to believe that the numbers that they're reporting of like 70% of the Jews voted for Kamala, I would find that very hard to believe that that's true. Although crazier things have happened. But when it comes to tikkun olam, right? I want to be very clear. This isn't a question of like, we're better than anyone else, right? It's not what it's about. It's about, our value system, right? We value education, right? As opposed to our enemies that we know what they teach their kids. And so when, you put such a strong focus on family values and on education, you see the results and you see that, a completely disproportionate number of Nobel Prizes were granted to Jews. It makes no sense. Again, we're 0.25% of the population. So, and by the way, if you look at the media and you don't know that number, that we're 0.25%, but you think we're like 70% of the population because we dominate the news cycle, which is in and of itself a whole discussion. But as far as making the world a better place, I mean, you look at things like cancer research, right? I mean, I had the opportunity many years ago to interview a man named Dr. Rick Klausner, who is the director of the National Cancer Institute and the man that every U.S. president came to with a blank check and said, here, cure cancer. He managed more cancer research money than anyone in the world. And I had the chance to interview him and I asked him about, why is it that we have AI and, self-driving cars and drones and all this stuff, but we can't crack cancer? And he said, we have cracked cancer. He said, we've learned how to take a person's immune system and attack the cancer. And that blew my mind. He said, many of these cures are still in the labs, they're not FDA approved. But then he continued and he told me that all of these leading cures and treatments are all developed in Israel. All of them. It's wild. I mean, I'll just give you, one example among literally hundreds. If you look at the different types of cancer, right, there are some that are obviously, very hard to cure, pancreatic and things like that. But then there are types of cancer that are very curable, cervical cancer. So how are people still dying of cervical cancer? Because they don't get tested, because the test is very invasive. Comes along an American-Israeli entrepreneur, and he starts a company called Mobile ODT that developed some cutting-edge light technology that can detect cervical cancer with no physical contact with the patient. So it basically removes the entire kind of barrier. And this thing has been deployed in thousands of hospitals around the world. It's saving millions of lives. And that's just one example. And cancer is just one example, right? You look at mental health. I mean, the list is endless. When it comes to technology that's making an impact, Israel is leading the world.
It's fascinating to hear you talk about this, because it's like that old argument: give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish, right? So there's one interpretation of this saying that's, oh, well, we're, basically socialism, right? Where, oh, we're just going to go give everything to everybody, and nobody's going to have money and all the whatever, versus, no, we're going to go create things. We're going to go innovate. We're going to go change the world and make it a better place actively by creating.
Yeah, I mean, listen, someone recently said to me something that I just loved. It resonated so deeply. He said, I didn't come to Israel because I'm a Zionist. I came to Israel because I'm a capitalist, which is amazing, right? Because when I was growing up, if you'd come to Israel, there was only one reason, and that's because you were a hardcore Zionist. Because back in the day, coming to Israel, you'd have to sacrifice a lot. You'd have to lower your quality of life compared to your American lifestyle. Today, Israel's at the pinnacle of the world of technology. And, I just came from a cafe 20 minutes from here, and I sat with some Americans who were visiting, and I said to all of them, I said, look around you. Do you feel like you're in a war zone? Yes, we're in a war.
Wow.
Yes, people are dying. Don't misunderstand. I'm not belittling, obviously, the losses and the devastation, but we move on. We move on with life, right? We don't forget, obviously, but we carry on. We got to do what we got to do. And again, that's our story. So, Israel is at the peak of capitalism. And if you look at the capitalistic world, Israel is at the top of the top.
Wow. I like it.
And explain the concept to our listeners of the unicorns, because I know you referenced that as well. I have to be honest, not a term I was familiar with. And again, in terms of the investment in capital in the companies in Israel, talk a little bit about that, because people need to understand, America needs to understand everything that's going on in Israel and why it's so seminally important beyond the U.S. ally and beyond just the Jewish homeland.
Well, that's really important. It's a really important point, because, when our enemies talk about, a disproportionate number of, dollars foreign aid coming to Israel, they don't realize that this is a mutually beneficial relationship. In fact, if anybody's on the receiving end here, it's America, not Israel, right? The amount of technology that Israel ships to America is unparalleled, right? And so when it comes to tech, if I'm going to oversimplify for 1 second, there's, I guess you could say, two types of companies. There's a public company, which is, Wall Street, you could buy stocks, things like that. And there are private companies, which generally are funded by venture capitalists and are owned privately. And so the term unicorn refers to a private company that has surpassed the valuation of $1 billion. It's called a unicorn because it was once upon a time very, very rare. Today, it's a little bit less rare, so maybe they did come up with a new term. But, that is what a unicorn means. And if you look at the number of unicorns in Israel, it's hard to believe, like literally hard to believe that Israel, this country, as I said before, smaller than New Jersey, has 1/10 of the entire world's unicorns. So all of the billion-dollar companies in the entire world, Israel has 1/10 of them. I think we've surpassed all of the unicorns in the entire European Union, which again is just it's staggering, right? But that's just one metric to look at when you look at the Israeli tech ecosystem. You could look at capital invested, just to give you context, just perspective here. In 2020, $11 billion were invested in Israeli startups. 2020, $11 billion, which I think we can agree is a pretty remarkable number for a country this small. 2021, 26 billion. We went from 11 billion to 26 billion in 1 year. It's hard to fathom, but that's the reality here. We are defying all logic, and it's just unbelievable to see that as we grow and grow, the media and the global community is like, they can't sustain this. There's no way Israel can sustain this. This is a fluke. It can't. And the next quarter comes and we break another record. It's unbelievable to watch.
So predict the future a little bit in terms of cutting edge. Am I stealing your questions, Ericka?
No, I'm like, get out your crystal ball.
Well, so breakthroughs, new technology coming out of Israel that people don't know about. Where are the next breakthroughs coming from?
Here's the thing. We all know that in a couple of years, our cars are not going to have steering wheels, right? We know that. There's no secret. Autonomous cars are right around the corner. Now, by the way, I have to tell you, I hear your response and I hear that reaction. And I have to say right now, even if you take the current situation right now and you take autonomous cars compared to human drivers right now, there's no question that autonomous cars are safer right now.
No way. No way.
Listen, go do the research. 99% of car accidents are human error.
Well,
It's just a fact.
Well, yeah.
So, right now, autonomous cars are already safer, but that's a whole different discussion. But when you talk about autonomous cars, just to get, I don't want to get too technical, but when you talk about autonomous cars, there are a few ways a car can drive itself, right? The obvious way are cameras, but cameras are very limited, right? Because it's too dark at night, if there's fog and things like that, it's not good enough. Then there's radar, right? You all remember like the radar things we had in our cars to detect when there was a cop coming, right? Radar is
I had them. I still have them.
Exactly. Right. So radar is limited in distance. Then there's something called LiDAR. Right? When you see an autonomous car today and there's that big thing on the roof of the car, that's LiDAR. That is the most accurate way for an autonomous car to operate. Now, what's the problem? The obvious problem is that it looks ridiculous. Right? We're not going to drive around with those things on our roofs, right? Well, comes along an Israeli company and says, let's fix this. And the company's called Innoviz, and they built LiDAR that's this big. And I mean, you look at the new BMW 7 Series, fully autonomous cars using Israeli technology. And that's one. The other company that's going to facilitate autonomous cars is, of course, Mobileye. Other leading companies. So when we ride in our cars, and I'm not saying drive, when we ride in our cars in the next couple of years, your car is going to be powered by Israeli technology. There's no discussion, right?
Wow.
That's a fact, right? And that's just transportation. When you talk about, people don't realize this. People talk about the Iron Dome as if, oh yeah, no problem. We'll just detonate rockets midair that are flying at hundreds of miles an hour. Do you understand? I sat with Dr. Danny Gold, who invented the Iron Dome. He told me this story. Okay, this guy sat with the brightest minds in Israel in a room. He said, rockets are raining down on Israel. We gotta solve this problem. And everyone came up with their ideas, and he just, pardon my pun, he just shot them all down. He said, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And then he came up with this idea to detonate rockets midair, and everyone thought he was absolutely crazy. The Israeli government said it's impossible. The Israeli army said it's impossible. The State Department, everybody told him it's impossible. And this guy built it. We have a system that detonates rockets at 96% precision. This is miraculous. But here's the thing. This is the part that people don't know. We talk about the Iron Dome. Those 2 nights when Iran attacked Israel, right? You had 3 aerial defense systems working in unison to perfection. You had the Iron Dome, which is the aerial defense system for the closer rockets. I think it's within 70 or 80 meters or some number. I don't know the exact number. Then you have David Sling, which is, a farther away missile, right? Then you have the Chet, the Arrow, which is outside of Earth's atmosphere. You're detonating rockets and missiles outside of Earth's atmosphere. And these 3 systems worked those nights in unison to perfection. And I'm telling you, you can go listen to the interview with the guy who managed that whole operation. And he said, the chances of those 3 systems working the way they worked are statistically impossible. Nothing went wrong. We detonated 99% of ballistic missiles and drones fired. It's unheard of. So from a defense perspective, we're blown away. But how many of us think about the tech involved in this? It is unprecedented. It is unbelievable to watch. And so basically, Reagan's Star Wars is now a reality because of Israel technology, is what people need to understand. 100%. Go watch. Listen, it's all available on the internet. You can go watch these. I mean, this just happened an hour ago, right? 2 long-range missiles from Lebanon were fighting into Tel Aviv. 3 long-range missiles, sorry. All of them detonated, midair. I mean, this is Star Wars. You could go watch the video. It's wild. It's just absolutely wild.
And you may have already spoken to this, so forgive me if this is a redundant question. And I'm a believer, and I've read my Bible. I'm pretty sure it says the Jewish people are God's chosen people, and so you don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. My Bible says the Jews are God's favorite. Okay, and we see evidence in history.
Not favorite, chosen people.
Chosen. Good point.
It's a different concept.
Excellent point. Excellent. You are correct.
Very different.
God chose.
Let me interrupt you, Ericka. Doesn't make the Jewish people better than any other people. Being
Correct.
the chosen people is an obligation and a responsibility.
Exactly.
Responsibility.
Exactly. Right. And that I think is important for people. Like, if unfortunately a lot of people don't know what the Bible says. So they don't really understand that. So thank you for correcting me. So part of me is going to be like, well, all of this success obviously is because of God, right? Like, a lot of it has to do with that. And that's because I'm a believer, but also because I have faith in those things. So do you think that, like, that biblical grounding gives you the direction, or do you know what I mean? Like, is it that, does that build the culture of like you said, of capitalism, of trying to find things, of innovating? Is it that builds that culture, or do you think it's more secular than that?
So, I mean, listen, the state of Israel is obviously a secular state, right? We're not run by, the Torah doesn't dictate our law or anything like that. But, as a believer like yourself, I can't look at the current events and not see God. I mean, you'd have to not want to see God, right? I mean, here's the thing though, right? Like, again, in our history, back again to the Bible, we have this tendency, the Jewish people, to not see the miracles right in front of our eyes. I mean, people don't realize this, but in ancient Egypt, after God did the 10 plagues, he said, get out of here, go to the land of Canaan, go to the land of Israel. 80% of the Israelites stayed back in Egypt. 80%. Only 20% left. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm Egyptian. I'm going to stay. It's like hard to believe, right? And
subjugation's comfortable. I'll stay here.
Hey, wait. Those 80% ended up in America voting for Democrats, but go ahead. Sorry, had to throw that in there, Hillel.
So this is a pattern. We don't see what's right in front of our eyes. And I'm going to say something. Right. I'm going to say something that many of your viewers are not going to like, and maybe even they're going to find maybe offensive. But I ask you to try to take a step back and think about what I'm saying from a historical perspective. Right now, we're in the middle of a devastating existential war, and we are in it, and it's hard to look at it objectively because we're in it. I get it. But let me ask you a question and try to be objective here, okay? If I told you in 100 years from now, okay, I told your grandkids, there was this country, a little tiny dot on the map, again, smaller than New Jersey, okay? You couldn't even see it on the map. And one day, 3,000 genocidal terrorists marched into this country with unlimited access to automatic weapons and 8 hours of free hand. Okay, just imagine that scenario. How many people would you have expected those 3,000 terrorists to murder? Think about it. They're spraying bullets in all directions for 8 hours. You should have expected 150,000 Israelis to have been murdered. You should have expected Israel to be wiped off the map. Now, let me just give a huge disclaimer. 1,200 people lost is the most devastating. Every single person that's lost is an entire world. And listen, I lost my brother to terror 6 years ago. No one has to lecture me about that, okay? I get it. But you have to. We owe it to ourselves to take a step back and realize, oh my God, they only, with air quotes, only killed 1,200 people. Where's the logic in that? It's unbelievable, right? So, you know what? If you don't want to call October 7th a miracle because that's too hard for you to swallow, I get it. But tell me this. All of these rockets, the 10,000, 20,000 rockets that don't get detonated by the Iron Dome, right. Where do they fall? I'll tell you where they fall. In empty spaces. Now, I don't know if you guys have been in Israel, but this country doesn't have any empty spaces.
There's no empty spaces.
Where are these falling? These are miracles. And you know what? In the desert, in the Bible, we had the clouds of glory. We walked through the desert with clouds surrounding us, right? And protecting us. And that is what the Iron Dome is. It's the modern day clouds of glory. And if you don't see God in this war, you don't want to see God in this war because it could not be more obvious.
I'm rarely speechless, Hillel, if you've listened to any prior podcasts, but that is so powerful. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to turn, in the few minutes we have left, I want to turn to politics in the following regard. I know what we hear in the media here about the divisions in Israel, about people are against the war, people are against Netanyahu, but I have plenty of friends in Israel who tell me that that's not the case on the ground. And the Israeli people have not been more unified in sort of the battle against Iran ultimately, but whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Hamas, that kind of thing. Through that lens, what was the Israelis' perspective on the election in the States? I assume it was viewed positively because there'll be no more talk of proportionate response or no more threatening to withhold weapon systems and things like that coming from a new administration. I have to assume it's looked at favorably, and there's almost universally so, question mark?
Yeah, so first of all, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at his actual presidency, right? People say you can't trust him. Forget his words. Forget the fact that he's pro-Israel in his rhetoric. Forget the fact that he just appointed, 4 different people that are super pro-Israel. Look, he was president for 4 years. Look what he did for Israel. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He recognized the Golan Heights. Trump is a friend of Israel's. Now, I want to be clear, and we could disagree on this. Do I think that I would hire Trump to babysit my kids? Probably not. Do I love his personality? No. I think he says some dumb things. I think he's met some dumb people. I think he's made mistakes. But is he a good president? Absolutely. Is he a friend of Israel's? Absolutely. The Biden administration, and I'm being nice, was an abusive partner. And I'm being nice, right? Sometimes they were good to us. Sometimes they were bad to us. Whatever they felt like doing that day. That's not a friendship, right? Trump has been a friend, a real friend to Israel. And so, when it comes to Israel, and again, I'm going to go back to the Bible. I can't help it. But our strength as a nation, and again, we see this literally The first thing that the Bible says about the Jewish people as we became a people, we are standing at Mount Sinai about to get the Bible. And the Torah, the Bible says, they in Hebrew, and then I'll translate, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged ahar, the Israelites parked by the mountain. Now, the word parked is used in singular. It doesn't say they parked, it says he parked. And so the commentaries say, why is it talking in singular? The answer is because they were there like one man with one heart. We were unified. That is our strength, and vice versa. When we are not unified, our enemies smell our weakness. And we have documents retrieved from Gaza that Hamas blatantly states that the division in Israel is what caused them to do October 7th on October 7th. They were planning this.
Wow.
No matter, they were going to do it. But it happened on October 7th because of the division in Israel. And I want to say something. A lot of my friends, hundreds of my friends and colleagues are out there on Kaplan Street, protesting against Bibi. And I love and I respect a lot of these people. I do. And I think many of them have good intentions. I really do believe that. But I'm telling you that there is a real sickness that we know of, Trump derangement syndrome. We call it Bibi derangement syndrome. It is an obsession. Nothing he can do, nothing will he get right. And I'll just give you one example, because it's so blatant. He just fired the defense minister. Why did he fire the defense minister? Right. Because he wasn't loyal to the government. These people went to the streets burning Tel Aviv. How could he fire the defense minister in the middle of a war? The same people a day before were standing there yelling that we need to fire Netanyahu. Wait a second. So you could fire the prime minister in the middle of a war, but you can't fire the defense minister in the middle of a war? Like, the hypocrisy is staggering, right? Because they find a new agenda every single time, whether it's, the judicial reform, right? Whether it's the hostages, whether it's his trials and all the accusations that, of course, have gone away, right? And now it's the defense minister. They find a new reason to fight and to try to bring Bibi down. But you're not going to bring him down because he is a phenomenal leader who is leading this war better than any politician in Israel, perhaps in the world, withstanding this incredible, horrible, and tragic pressure from the State Department to end the war with all their arms embargo threats and everything that Biden. He's standing. They say don't go into Rafah. He says we're going into Rafah. He went into Rafah, and we killed the head of Hamas in Rafah. We had to go into Rafah, but the whole world said you can't go into Rafah. You can't go into Lebanon. And Bibi, so listen, we need to do what we need to do. That is something that very few politicians in Israel, maybe in the world, could have done more successfully than Netanyahu.
Basically, what you're saying is divide and conquer is the same strategy that's being deployed both in the United States as well as in Israel, right? Divide America, pit them against each other, men against women, black against white, rich against poor, liberal against conservative, whatever fissure you can find, divide people. And then once they're distracted by the division, it's easier to rule, and then you invade. In your case, you were invaded by Hamas and Iran, not on the ground, boots on the ground, Iran, but ultimately this all comes back to Iran, as we all know. And we're invaded on our southern border and actually on our northern border as well. So it's the same techniques and strategies that are being employed by the opposition to bring down Israel, to bring down America as well.
Yeah, the West, basically. And
bring down the West, because that's, as we know, Hillel, this isn't about the Jews, right? If they drive us into the sea, right, river to the sea, as I said to my Christian friends, I said, "You're next." It's after they come after the Jews, they're going after the Christians. So
that's right.
Yeah, there's a very strong correlation between the anti-Netanyahu crowd and the anti-Trump crowd. The people that are on Kaplan who are, protesting against Netanyahu, many of them are not happy that Trump won, but the vast majority of Israel, is obviously feeling super positive about the election results, and the press, as we know, the media, they need clicks, and what gets clicks? Division gets clicks, right? And so, when we talk about this, the narrative you mentioned from the river to the sea, the list of internal paradoxes is mind blowing, right? I mean, we have the obvious ones, but we have the hostages were fed well, but there's no food in Gaza. Make up your mind, right? Gaza was an open air prison before October 7th, but it was paradise before October 7th, and Israel ruined it, right? We have, a ceasefire now, globalized intifada. Which one is it? Those things are mutually exclusive, right? The entire narrative is just full of paradoxes. And these people, they are out there chanting things. They literally do not even know what they're talking about. It is unbelievable to watch. In Ivy League colleges, otherwise intelligent people are saying things literally. They do not know the meaning of the words that are coming out of their mouths. It's, you see this, and you could either, get super depressed, or you could say, God, you got a sense of humor.
And
Well,
God definitely
it's queers.
does have
It's
a
queers
sense
for
of humor.
right. Queers for Palestine is like chicken for Colonel Sanders. Try LGBTQ in the West Bank or Gaza. Or Iran. See how far that gets you. Right.
I just want to correct you one thing before I just want to say one more thing, because this is really important. I know that we see eye to eye on this. We have to be careful with the words that we say, because words matter. And we often fall into the trap of using words and narrative that our enemies have kind of instated as. And so I don't want to use the word West Bank. You know why people call it West Bank? Because they don't want to call it Judea and Samaria.
Judea and Samaria.
They don't want to call it that, because when you say Judea, it sounds a lot like the word Jew, doesn't it? And so that implies that we are indigenous to this land.
Touché.
So let's just not use that word, right? Let's use the word Palestinian. What the heck is show me when an Arab Palestinian state ever existed in the history of the world. Let's call them what they are. Jordanians who just came into Israel, and okay, you want to live in peace, but they're not Palestinian. You know who Palestinians are? Golda Meir was a Palestinian. Israelis were Palestinians. There was never an Arab Palestinian state in the history of the world. And that's important. Words matter.
And with
Absolutely.
that,
I appreciate the correction.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you've gotten something out of the conversation today, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and leave us a comment. Ask a question. Hillel Fuld, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any last words?
Well, where can they find you, Hillel? Where can they find you?
The internet is my business card. I'm HILZ, like zebra, FULD on all my Hillel Fuld. My mom used to call me Hills. My mom calls me Hills, so Hillel Fuld is my brand.
Yes.
You want to know if I have one last thing to say to you, and this is the most important thing, and that is that we will dance again. Because if you look at all of our holidays, without exception, it's the same story. They came after us, and we won, and we're here, and we're dancing. And October 7th was incredibly dark, and there's no belittling that. But so was Purim, and so was Hanukkah, and so was Passover, and here we are celebrating. We will dance again.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah is right. Amen.